way. And these jokers are resilient. But that should give us hope. That should give us hope that like we can't stop, won't stop. I mean, I went to the school of Diddy. You know what I'm saying? Hashtag bye 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 bye. Harlem shaking it right now. Can't stop, won't stop. And I think that's our motto. We can't stop voting and we won't stop voting. We can't stop marching and we won't stop marching. We can't stop thriving and we won't stop thriving.
To that end, because you led me directly there, I've been asking everyone who's here on this platform, what does activism look like? And I feel like back in the day, we had an idea. Yes, it is marching. Yes, it is protesting. Yes, it is speaking out against things that we feel are not right or unjust. But talk to me about what activism looks like for Ivana.
Activism, I think the beauty of activism is that it has many faces, right? You're going to have the people on the front line. Like, you know what? Martin Luther King marched, but there were a lot of women who were in the homes like, hey, DC Doug, when they come back, this is how we support all the people who are marching on the front line. And we're going to be here doing what we know to do best here. And you know what? Somebody needs to bail them out of jail so that now we need to be in the community, getting money or whatever it is. So it's like everybody has a position to play. It's a position to play. So whoever you are, either line racism, some overt racism, in terms of ways that we can actually be more uplifting to the community that you may not even realize that you're serving.
Before I let you go, talk to me about the urgency, in your opinion, for people to vote, our people to get out and vote this time.
Yeah, I mean, guys, Ryan, if you think you're tired now, I'm telling you right now, we cannot take this sitting down. We can't take this jokingly. I understand that it may be hard to figure out who to vote for, but at the end of the day, we got to vote for our families. We got to vote for our legacies. We got to vote for continued progress. We have to vote for upward mobility. We have to vote for equality in a way that is long lasting. And if we succeeded before, we can do it again. You talk about the hope. This is the time. This is not the time to give up. This is not the time to pretend a way that we haven't made progress. We have. There's still much more to be done. And you know what? We might have to get to a point where we pass the baton to our children and our children's children, but we still have work to do now for that generation.
Von Orgy, you are everything. You are Molly, but you are not Molly, but I love you so much as Molly on HBO's Insecure. You are an amazing podcaster, Jesus and Jollof. Shout out to Lovey. And then we also have movies. Like you have the world. You're a model, a cover model. Also, wait, don't let me forget your hugely successful stand-up comedy special on HBO. Girl, you're doing it all. And I am so grateful. You're truly... So Atlanta has been one of the hotbeds in terms of political unrest and social injustice. We've seen so much happen in that city, and we've also seen so much come from that city, including one of the very own founding fathers.
choosing whether you want to be silent or not about race, that's a privilege in and of itself. But no, I mean, I try to just do my best to listen to the black people around me and the educated black people I have in my life. So I do my best to not act like I have all the answers for everything, especially in a culture that I'm not from. But that's why when we decided to raise the money for Black Lives Matter organizations, when we raised 500,000, we got on the phone with some of the women who started Black Lives Matter. I got on the phone with Tamika Mallory. I was on the phone with Karen Civil and talking with my friends to make sure the money went to like the correct places, and people who really need it. It's just about listening. That's all. It's about listening.
Let's talk about that for a moment, because the way I think of activism, for me, it looks very differently. It's not necessarily just protesting on the front lines. I think that's great. But what about being an activist in the way in which you have decided to be one? What inspired you? What did it look like? You said you raised money for Black Lives Matter. What did you do? Mm-hmm. Walk us through everything that you did and how you find yourself in this moment right now.
So for me, it was 3 years ago, I had like a string of festivals, and I decided that I was going to wear T-shirts with a message on them, because I figured what better time to use a platform than in front of, a bunch of people. So one of the T-shirts I wore was, if you want to change the system, speak up, white silence is pro-racism, the whole thing.
People, because you're in the crux of that.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I was younger. Maybe it's because I really thought that, or I don't know. But I just think that it's got to, Now this is a bit of a privilege to say it's got to a breaking point for me, because obviously it's been past the breaking point for Black people. But I think that as a whole, the young people need to get out and vote, because we're the ones that never show up. You know what I mean? We never show up to vote, but we're the future. So it's like, look, we got to go out there and vote, and then whatever happens, but at least we did our part. You got to do your part.
You're very candid in saying that you just decided to vote. And I think there's a beautiful irony in the fact that you have your fans saying, because of you, I'm voting. Right. And there's something beautiful about that. But I want to know why now for you. Why in this moment is it important for you to vote? And what hit your spirit to say, yes, this is the time to do it?
Honestly, because I think that George Floyd really woke up a lot of people who, including myself, who I was vocal and outspoken about racism. I put it in my lyrics. I put it on T-shirts. I would talk about it in interviews. I was vocal about it. But that video in that moment, I think me, along with a lot of other people, just kind of was like, all right, like, words are simply not enough anymore. We got to do something, whether it's raising money, whether it's voting, or all the above. Like, we got to do something, and I'm ashamed that it took that for me to be like, I need to raise money and I need to vote. It's a shame. And I don't know, I guess it snapped a bunch of people out of it, And even if you were vocal and whatnot, it's time to actually put your money where your mouth is. It's time to go vote. It's time to just stop talking about it and be about it, you know. And it's been time for that, but like I said, you know, I'm ashamed that it took me this long to actually really be about it, but I'm here now.
So, Russ, we all know that this is going to be your first time voting. Tell me what that
Yeah,
experience is going to be like for you in terms of what you're excited about.
I think know that's gonna do for me. Let me know that I'm contributing to something bigger than myself, and I'm actually putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm doing about it because, you know, for so long, and I know I'm not alone with this. Outside and just doing what I did and that, and it's like, I just believe it's gonna feel very bigger than me. And I think when you realize that giving uh, actually feels better than receiving, that's when you start wanting to do your part and contribute. So, voting is an easy way to give. You know.
Yeah. To whom much is given, much is required, and you have been given a huge platform, and we are so grateful for you, Russ. Philanthropist, artist, community activist, first time voter. We appreciate you for doing
Yes.
this, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, la la.
So, cities like Atlanta and Chicago have been at the forefront of the discussions, especially now in this country when we're talking about COVID 19 and systemic racism, as well as police brutality and what we can do in this country. Again, we're continuing our conversation, letting you know that your voice is your vote and your vote is your voice. We can change where we are in this country. Currently, I'd like to welcome in Chicago Cubs right fielder Jason Hayward. I appreciate you. I brought in Atlanta and Chicago because I know you grew up in the metropolitan area of Atlanta, more specifically McDonough. Let's be technical, and and you have been very vocal throughout this entire time in terms of what our country's been experiencing. Let's look at the past month and a half, if you will. What has been the hardest thing for you to deal with?
The hardest thing for me to deal with, Carrie, this last month has just been going from the virus shutting everything down to us being called to action. We've had multiple political parties.
So tell me in your words, what does activism look like for you?
In my words, it looks like LeBron James, the biggest athlete right now on the planet, speaking up and breaking the ice for everyone. And I think for the first time, people see and hear from us. So now we have white teammates, we have other people speaking up and realizing, okay, like this is how we go about doing this. And to me, right now, social media, athletes speaking up, entertainers speaking up, like we're trying to do it more than a vote.
You said something I thought was so key because covering sports for so long, I know that it's tough for black players specifically in Major League Baseball to talk about how they feel. Adam Jones did it in a very eloquent way early on, but there are very few that are vocal. You said you all were afraid. Why use that word and why were you afraid?
You was afraid because in 2019 there were 68 of us total, and there are 38 teams. There's 25-man roster on each team. There's a 40-man roster, which is on each team as well. And there aren't many of us, so we're outnumbered in that sense, but not always in a negative way when it comes to our teammates in our clubhouse. to get to this point, you have to move a certain way. You got to be careful what you say. You can't come off in any way